Hey everyone, welcome to Admit One with G Money. Today we have a globally recognized Grammy-nominated music producer, artist, fashion designer, entrepreneur, and now NFT visionary with his longtime partner, collaborator, and manager. They are the founders of Aokiverse, a new community ecosystem bridging the metaverse with the real world. It's Web3 meets Web 2.0 meets IRL. Citizens of the Aokiverse gain unrivaled access to both on-chain and physical experiences, from pre-sale NFT access and rewards to free tour tickets to over hundreds of dates worldwide. Members will also receive access and rewards through opportunities only possible in the metaverse, including virtual performances, NFTs, wearables, and more. They are here today to discuss their upcoming drops, Skypods, the collab with metaverse platform oncyber, along with DominionX. Please welcome Steve Aoki and Matt Colin. How are you guys?
What's up, G Money?
I'm good, man.
Good,
How you
good.
been?
How's everything? You guys are currently in Europe, right? Whereabouts are you right now?
We're in Croatia. We just got to the hotel. We just came from a string of shows. Tomorrowland was over the weekend, which is like, for the DJ, it's like the most important festival of the year. Yeah, so kind of riding on that high over the weekend of these like massive festivals, and now we're in the most beautiful, gorgeous place, like overlooking. I mean, what I see right now is like overlooking the ocean, actually the sea, because you call it the sea out here. Doing another show tonight. You know, it's like 5, 6 shows a week out here.
That's awesome. How long are you in Europe for?
Till the end of August. August 25th is the last date. But wow, it doesn't feel amazing to be on the road again like this. You know,
Right.
It's like one thing to tour across the U.S. Asia's been on lockdown, so I haven't been able to really hit Asia as hard as I used to. But Europe, we are back in full force. Like, the shows are so massive again. Energy is like, I think it's like got more emotions. The more emotions are exuding. I could really feel like a different kind of energy from pre-COVID. So yeah, it feels really good.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I've been in Mykonos for the last 3 weeks, and just like
Nice.
the energy has been crazy. Like, I mean, everywhere is insane because, you know, the last 2 years have been on lockdown. So it's like
Yeah,
everybody's come back out to play, and like the energy is really
Exactly.
cool. Maybe a
Yeah.
little too packed at times, but it's been really good.
I think that's the thing is happening, is that now everyone's like, get me out of my home. I want to travel, Mykonos, Ibiza, you know, wherever, you know. So it's like, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to head up there for Tomorrowland, but like it was my last weekend here, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay here. What I guess of the dates that you have left on the tour, what are you most looking forward to? Like, what stop?
Untold Festival in Romania has actually become one of my favorite festivals. No one would expect a country like Romania to be such like an important city or a country for EDM music, but it's like it's just so like gratifying to be able to connect with these fans that are just so hungry for the music, and you know, it just I don't know, I love playing out there. But there, I mean, there's just so many. Like, you know, I got to go back to Czech Republic. I haven't been there in a minute. Ibiza, my residency holds me down all summer. Every single Tuesday at Amnesia. I've been holding down a residency in Ibiza since 2007. But you know, for the past few years, pre-COVID, I was at Amnesia, and it's an incredible club. And you know, it's like a festival lineup every single Tuesday. So like that's like one thing I really look forward to, because it's a proper Aoki concert, and we're like debuting my new album, my new concept, Hero Quest, which I will talk to you more about that later, because it has a lot to do with collectible culture, and Web3 components will be part of that.
Right. Yeah. No. That's really exciting, and that's awesome. I really want to get into that. And like I'm really, I will say, like, the last time we all saw each other was at VCon, when you performed in where was it? In Michigan. Was it Michigan?
Armory.
Yeah, Minneapolis. Yeah.
It feels like wow, my brain fart there. Like, feels like so long ago, but like the energy there at the Armory was like insane. Like, that was like, it was really, really cool to see how the crowd went nuts, and just like a proper Aoki concert that I've been to like plenty of times in the past. So like that was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, talking about that was so cool to bring all the Web3 heads in.
Yeah.
And the Aoki verse passport holders and the VCon, all the VCon people in, and then so many friends in the Web3 that I've made were all there. So it was great to like bring everyone. Logan Paul came through as well. It's just like it was like there was times where I felt intimate, but then there's like 8,000 people there.
Right. Yeah, and I will say the highlight of it for me was like right before Beeple went on stage and got caked. Like I saw him because we were backstage and like on that little balcony, and so you could see him like kind of pacing back and forth backstage, like he was getting ready to do it, and you just see him take a swig of the beer and just like, all right, let's go out there and do it, right? And like that to me, I was dying laughing when that happened.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But yeah, I wanna start off with a question for you, Matt, because obviously everybody is familiar with Steve and everything that he's been doing. But for those in the audience that aren't familiar with you, can you give a little bit of your background, and how you came to partner with Steve?
Yeah, I'll make it as short as possible. So I was working at a record label in dance music, and then eventually a magazine. And Steve was kind of a local, term was hipster at the time, DJ. And we would do these I threw all the parties for this magazine called BPM. Steve would often play the side party. The side party was for all the hipsters. We put like EDM DJs in the main room, which at the time were like Paulo Confold and like, Crystal Method or something. And we became friends. He started playing more and more. And then eventually he got onto the cover of the magazine, which meant he got to do his own party that I threw. And this is almost 20 years ago, 19 years ago. He was just slow to reply to email. I said, basically, I'll reply to your offers for you. I didn't know how to be a manager. He was not the greatest DJ. And then we just kind of figured it out together. It was, I look at some managers today. I'm like, I don't envy them. I don't envy somebody who like gets an act and then they skyrocket to popularity and then they fire their friendager who's not like prepared for like this level. Like I got to figure it out. Like, well, he's learning to mix records. I'm learning how to do like a remix agreement, so every day he like learned something new. Like I want to produce a song. Like, cool. I'll learn how to do that. And it take him a few months to produce a song. It take me a few months to learn how to do the contract. And we just sort of like grew together from 2004. Right.
No, that's awesome. Today. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was around and I remember, I guess first hearing about you, Steve, was, I don't know how I came upon it because I was living in New York at the time, after I graduated college, but Cobra Snake used to put out a bunch, he used to take tons of party pictures out in LA, and he used to put out his limited edition t-shirts. And I remember I would go out and buy all of his shirts as they dropped. And that was my first exposure to you. And at the time it was really because I was I like this guy's quirky art that he was putting on t-shirts, living in New York. And to this day, one of my most complimented t-shirts that I've ever worn is a Cobra Snake shirt that he did back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, me and Mark, we traveled the world together. He shot all my parties. Mm-hmm. We were we're still best friends. We were best friends back then, traveling all the time. We're just it's usually two DJs that travel the world. For us, it was a DJ and a photographer. So, and he shot it's funny because he always said he's I'm putting you on my stage to 10,000 people a night, Steve. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, 10,000 people come and view the photos of our party that hold 300 people or 200 people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, because there was no real social media back then. It was just blogs.
That was MySpace, right? That was still during MySpace time, right?
Pre-Facebook.
It's pre-MySpace even.
And you didn't have photo galleries that were accentuated in MySpace, So Cobra Snake was the source to see what's happening through his lens in LA. It really is all about LA hipster culture. And then we're let's just come with me everywhere, and let's document all of it, And shout out to his new book with Rizzoli. he just dropped about that cultural time period from 2000 to 2010. Like, you know, they framed it so well. And you know, if like anyone's interested in that time period, which was, you know, such a incredible and interesting time, check out his book for sure.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, sorry to like just go a little nostalgic there, but I was just like, you know, when Matt brought that up of like when you guys were first starting together, I'm like, yeah, like that was like my indirect exposure, and it was really because I wanted this guy's t-shirts because I liked, you know, his vibe, and the party pics were obviously awesome.
Absolutely.
And stuff.
I have all those shirts.
Yeah.
I
have the ones, you know, the ones that were actually the Cobra snake, like the head. I think I have them in all the colorways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cobra with him on his head.
So like, yeah, no, it's just funny. But yeah, I want to let's start getting into like Web3 here, because, you know, I think one of the interesting things is, you know, you were, I'd say, probably one of the first real big celebrities to really embrace the space. And one of the things that really struck me when we met was like your understanding and your commitment, right? Because I think a lot of times people will come in not necessarily understanding the tech and do something, and if it doesn't necessarily like fly right out of the gate, they're like, you know, fuck it, like what's next, right? So, you know, I want to commend you for that, and like I really appreciate your commitment to Web3. What was it that I guess struck you about Web3 when you first got in? Like what made it click for you right away, that you were willing and able to kind of jump with 2 feet in?
Yeah, I mean, it's really similar to, you know, community building in something in the real world, you know, especially when it's something new. Like, you know, I always talk about it, like when I was a kid, you know, when I got introduced into the hardcore scene, this punk hardcore scene, it was small. It's really small, and every contribution is meaningful. And there is no financial reward. There's actually nothing that you actually gain from it besides the community growing. Because you do it because you love this community. You don't do it because there's a payout at the end. You don't do it because, oh, like I'm getting paid at the end. You don't get paid. I wrote for a hardcore zine for 7 years for free. Every single issue. I reviewed like 100 demo cassette tapes and zines and 7-inches. With no intention of ever getting paid. Like no one got paid. And you know, like even like when I started DimMock back when I was 19 in 96, I never considered actually taking money from it. Actually, I don't want to, I don't know, like, you know, I've been doing DimMock for like 27 years. All the money goes right back into the company. I don't like take any of the money out and put it in my pocket. Like after 27 years, I'm still thinking the same way. It's all about sustainability. It's not necessarily with Web3, it's a nonprofit existence. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the ethos and the philosophy of when you really care about a community, you can't think about the money first. If you put the money in front of you first, and if you don't get it quickly, you're out, you're absolutely it's gonna fail. People are all around you, it's gonna run, right, for sure. Even if you're not meant to be a rug, you know, like you have to really put in the time, the dedication. I think anyone that has really built in the real world in Web 2 and has shown dedication into their own communities, those are the people that I would rather invest into. It's a very similar to like when because I'm an investor as well, so I invest in all different, like, you know, in F&B, in tech, in like certain startups, or, you know, whatever it might be. You always invest into the person, not the actual company, or the person, not necessarily the idea. So it always reaps the best rewards whenever you think about who's driving the engine, like what is their track record, what have they done in the past, and then go, that vision lines with mine. Okay, that makes sense. So I think Web3, it's got like, ever since my first NFT drop, March of 2021, when we were in that Clubhouse chat, it was 10,000 people in there, and like we thought that it would do, like, we didn't know what to expect. We weren't thinking about what the sale would be. You know, we're like, oh yeah, you know, like in 2020, we're like, oh, well, Blau made like 25 grand. Like, oh, well, maybe we can make a little more than that. I mean, it was never about like how much money we could make. And we made this astounding amount, which I couldn't fucking believe it at that time. And I saw like this vibrancy and this like electricity happening in these like, you know, in these online chats and discords and like I didn't understand it at first. I didn't understand that was possible. You know, because when you think about like a community, you need to be like, I need to be at a show and feel that energy, you know? That's why I do what I do. I didn't know that can exist because previous to Web3, every like Discord or WhatsApp group chat, it doesn't have the same kind of like drive and like attention and this fervor. And Web3 is just like, you just feel this like kind of energy. I mean, it's FOMO because people are going in because they want to buy early and sell, right? But it's also like I want to build, I want to do something, I want to be part of something special and new. I want to be part of the future. That's what I felt again, and that's what really was like. Okay, we're back in this. Like I'm 16, you know, joining my first hardcore band. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah, no, I totally agree because we're in a group chat together, right? And just like a lot of like the FOMO and like the conversations that happen, it does feel like it's almost like it reminds me a little bit of like back when I was younger, like collecting baseball cards, right? It's like, oh my God, like I got this card and like this is my favorite player and kind of like, you know, sharing the traits and projects and stuff. So I definitely feel that. And I will say like that group chat that we have, there's something about it that like to me it's just like really organic and it's more about the collecting more so than a lot of like the other chats that I'm in where sometimes maybe it's more focused on like profit maximization or whatever it is, right? How do you think it's changed? How do you think like your trajectory in your coming into the space has changed your trajectory as an artist?
I think the main thing is that Web3 is all about. So we say Web3 is about community. Web3 is about like hearing other voices and having them participate in the future. That's the major difference. So like everything Web 2, like let's say like as an artist, you know, I'm an artist first. So whatever I put out to the world, and people give me feedback. Whether if they like it, it does really well. If they don't like it, they just pass on it. In Web 3, it's like we're all kind of part of the offering to the world. So everything that we're doing now, like when I think about what I'm positioning, and because I'm so focused on how to like whatever's coming to the Steve Aoki world and the business of Steve Aoki, I'm trying to bring it into Web3 the best I can, and that's what Aokiverse is all about, and it's worked incredibly so far. You know, like whatever, like oh we're about to do a deal with. Like for example, like Nickelodeon. We like work with Nickelodeon on something, and I remixed the Hey Arnold Rugrats theme song. Like, well, let's figure out how to tie this in. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to buy 50,000 of these NFTs because I believe in the project and bring it back to the Aokiverse community, which is actually some alpha to drop because I don't think people knew that it was going to Aokiverse. But there's like certain things where like as I'm like going into different worlds, I'm like, oh, cool. I love the Goblin Town. I love what they're doing, what they're all about, and now I can make an official song for the Goblin Town, you know, and make that an airdrop, make that something that people can, you know, we did it for free. We just dropped it, and people, you know, whether it's flippers making money on it or whether it's people that collected it because they love it, I don't give a shit. I'm happy that I could give something to the community that's of value, right? And I love being able to do like, you know, being nimble and being maneuverable. And with my music career, I have a very specific structure and vision. With NFTs, I can be a little bit more creatively open, you know, like whether I'm making music or scoring music for, you know, something I did with Neon Future that's dropping with Aoki, or doing something with the Stupid Buddies team with our Replicant X drop, you know, whatever it is. It allows me to have so much more freedom.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's really it's really interesting because I kind of experienced the same thing with myself with Admit One, right? Obviously on a much smaller scale where it's like I can now include my community and bring them into like conversations that I'm already having with, you know, potential partners and brands or whatever have you, right? And like be able to kind of have them experience some of that upside even more organically and more closer to the heart than you otherwise could before the existence of NFTs, right? You know, and I think like to me, like one of the things I've always been super impressed with you is like I think I asked you this the first time I met you is like, when do you sleep, right? Because like you do so many amazing things and you're across so many different industries, that's like, you know, I really respect the fact that like it really seems like you never sleep, but then also, right, like how do you envision Aokiverse complementing all your other endeavors that you're working with, right? Besides just bringing them in.
Well, you know, I did make a documentary called "I'll Sleep When I'm Dead," so I have to live up to the title. But I think in general, like the way that my brain operates is I love being. I'm driven by inspiration. I'm driven by like my feelings. So like if I'm inspired, I'm going to continue to do it. And I'm constantly inspired. It's incredible to be in your 40s and have so much inspiration and have so much to live for. You know, like I think what I always tell a lot of my friends and you know people I talk to is that they might lose inspiration is that you have to be present to find inspiration. You have to be listening at all times. You can't be just floating in daydream land. You have to really focus in on what's in front of you, and you could find so much beauty in the detail.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so that's why I'm able to. I don't know. That's why I'm able to do so much. I think is I just I'm inspired. I'm excited about life. I'm excited about all these collaborations to do these exciting things that we could share a lot of the stuff that we're doing. And also because I have incredible teams like Matt, you know, like Matt's been my partner for on a lot of these projects. You know, he's my manager, but you know, he's my partner in a lot of these businesses. He's like my tennis mate. You know, we're going back and forth with ideas. And Aokiverse couldn't do it without Matt. You know, I always say like I'm the Lewis Hamilton, you know, nod to the GOAT. And he's the one that built the engine and makes my car. Like if I don't have the fast fucking car, I can't be first place. You know what I mean? So we're a really great team together. Very different than other artist manager relationships. And Aokiverse is like one of those kinds of things that we're hand in hand on. And we're actually, there's a lot of alpha that we're going to be dropping to a lot of people through this talk. So I'm excited to discuss that, you know.
All right, cool. So yeah, I guess before we get into the alpha leak, I guess Matt, like one of the questions I have with regards to Aokiverse and, you know, what were some of the values or the tenets that you used to build the foundation of Aokiverse that you didn't want to compromise when you were creating it?
Oof, what a tough question. I think that our sort of guiding North Star was how do we bring people into the entirety of Steve's ecosystem, which we've never been able to do before. So, for example, you know, Steve will have brand partners, Steve will do shows, he has music, he has a social media, and it's hard to sort of incorporate everybody into all of those things. And they oftentimes will live independent of each other. He has a trading card game, he's buying this, he's buying like, it's really hard in almost any ecosystem to tie all that together. So they would sort of live in their own little, you know, silos. You know, he'd have his trading card fans and he'd have his music fans, and some of the music fans don't go to shows, and there's no way to loop it all together into one sort of narrative thread. So when we came up with the Aokiverse, you know, the sort of guiding North Star was always, how do we do everything in one place where you can sort of pick and choose what your passion about Steve is, and that will be a part of it. So we were able to take all his brand partners, his music releases, his live shows, his passion for trading cards and collectibles, and obviously his passion for NFTs, and to loop all that in together and into one sort of all-knowing, all-being ecosystem. Because the thing about Steve is he loves everything. He's a more and more kind of guy, and we're always, he comes up with a passion like, I want to do a show, I want to do a movie, I want to do a song, I want to do a trading card game, and we're all jumping through all these hoops trying to make it happen. And then at the end of it, like, all right, how do we sort of explain this to the fans? Why we're doing it? We're running so hard to just keep up with them. We could never until the invention of Web3, we could never come up with a way. We tried fan clubs, and that Web2 experience, Steve knows this as well as I do. The Web2 experience never really translates. Like, people don't care about access to photos, right? Early tickets are great, but that's a segment of these fans. Steve has such a broad fan base across so many categories.
Cardi B.
What's that?
Unless you're Cardi B, she's made like 100 million, I think, on OnlyFans. So
that's one way. That is one segment of her fan base, though, right?
100 million, I think, or something like that, like 80 million or something like that. It's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, the goal was to be a hub for all things Steve, and also to have it be a two-way conversation. Because that's the other problem with everything else we do in Web 2 is it's a one-way conversation, right? Like, you make the thing, and they either buy it or they don't. They subscribe or they don't, and at best they can leave comments, feedback and comments. The conversation, as you know, on Discord is so much more fluid, and it's like you're always in beta. We'll announce something, and they'll praise us or they'll vilify us, and then in the normal world you don't change. Like, we did it, it's out there, it's announced. Hopefully people like it. In Web3, like, hey, we're gonna do this thing. And everyone's like, yeah, that sounds great, but what about this thing? You're like, oh, that's a good point. All right, we're changing the rules, everybody. We're doing this thing. And they actually praise you for it.
Right.
Thank you for listening to us. Right? It's this like enormous little, it's this little, I mean, we talk about it, it's this moment in time, which may not ever come again for another 20 years, where people will jump through all kinds of technical hurdles. They'll be patient with the building process. They don't mind that there's going to be mistakes along the way. Your food comes late from your lunch and you're yelling at the manager, right? In Web3, you're 3 months behind, but you're talking to them the whole way. They understanding, like, you just can't pull this off in any other ecosystem. Everything needs to be a perfect, flawless experience. Here we can experiment, and you can bring the community as part of that
and I
experiment.
think the key there, right, is like communication. Like, from what I've noticed, like a lot of times when let's say the experience is suboptimal for a project, it really comes down to the fact that when there's an issue, the team doesn't communicate, and people just want even if the answer is like, I don't know what's going on, and we can't figure out a solution, but we're trying to figure it out. That's like, at least people are like, okay, well, at least you're paying attention, and we know you're working on it. Obviously you're working on it. Like, I think you guys have probably been behind the scenes in like a control room where it's like, what the fuck is happening? We need to figure this shit out while like the Discord's going nuts and while you're trying to put out the fire. And like, the key is just that communication. You can be late as long as you communicate it. I think people understand, right? Because ultimately they are fans and of Steve and want to be part of the ecosystem, right? So I agree. It's like a special moment in time that you couldn't really harness before that now you can, right? And you can create that interactivity and that also like that sense of ownership, right? Of the community, of helping that experience grow itself.
Mm-hmm. Everyone feels like they're part of something. It goes back to like that Steve gave that example of the punk rock thing, right? Where everyone was just doing it for free because like, I feel like I'm building something. I feel like whatever I'm doing right now is going to be meaningful later. And I feel like, in our group chats or in the Discords, like, everyone just like so supportive. We have issues that come up all the time, and before our mods even get to it, the other community members have already answered the question, right, and figured it out for somebody who's just trying to join the community. It's such a collaborative space, and I really don't like. I haven't seen anything in my lifetime. I've never seen anything like that. I was not able to be part of that punk rock thing that Steve did, 20 plus years ago, 30 plus years ago, whatever it was. But it doesn't happen often, and you want to be a part of it.
I totally agree. And I guess with that, let's talk a little bit about what Steve just alluded to earlier. First let's talk about the Aoki versus Skypod. For those who aren't familiar, can you explain what it is and kind of how it came into existence?
Yeah, so the Aoki versus Skypod is our version of our metaverse. It's we teamed up with oncyber, who made the I guess what was it called, like
the CloneX space pods.
Yeah, the CloneX space pods. So they made space pods for CloneX, which I thought were very, very cool. And we talked to them, spent like a few months, at least I think it was like 8 months developing this with them.
Exactly.
And it's like inspired heavily from, I mean, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and Oblivion, Star Wars Cloud City, it's like lives in this cloud environment, and there's six different tiers in Aokiverse, so there's 6 different Skypods that you can get if you're in that tier, and yeah, they're awesome. They're interoperable. They exist like anywhere. So like basically, you just type in the URL of your Skypod, and anyone can go see what your Skypod has to offer, and you could personalize it. The whole point of it is like you personalize it with your NFTs, and of course, because of me, there's a studio. So we built like a crazy studio inspired by my studio, the Neon Future Cave at my house, and you could play NFT music. We're eventually going to be able to put like a real-time music player in there, but any NFT music you could be playing in there. And yeah, it's a fun way to engage with your own space, create your own space, showcase your NFTs to public, and be part of
Nice.
the Aokiverse in that way.
Yeah, when we started Aokiverse, like we started talking on cyber as we were developing Aokiverse. And I think we've talked about this as well a few times in the past, but like everyone's like, I want to be in the metaverse. And the people that are like sort of in the know, like we are already in the metaverse, right? Where Web3 is the metaverse. But so if you're in if you're in Aokiverse, you're in the metaverse. But the sort of for the layman, like the metaverse is Ready Player One, right? Like you want this VR environment, you want to exist. So on the one hand, yes, we're building the metaverse in Aokiverse, and you are part of the community, and you own the token, and everything we do is token gated. But we do want to scratch that itch of like a visual layer, right? A UI layer, like what does that feel like and what does that look like? So, after obviously the space pods came out, we reached out to oncyber, and they were gracious enough to partner with us. And then they paired us with, they introduced us this Infer Studio, who just took Steve's ideas for like a neon feature, like what would his environment look like, and just took it to like the nth degree. And we built these we built these pods, and as Steve said, there's 6 pods, so for every tier you get a different design. And those designs, they have more space. The physics are ridiculous. The materials that you're seeing are of increasing complexity computationally, but they're all interoperable. So the fun part also, by the way, it'll be part of oncyber's collection. So they will be interoperable with CloneX space pods, as well as other things that they have coming out. Punk, was it 61542 or whatever his name is, his city, like they'll all be interoperable.
Right.
You'll be able to go from one to the other. And the other, on top of that, which we really like, because we have talked to everybody, and we're fans of Decentraland, and we do stuff with Sandbox, but the really cool thing about them is you don't need anything special to use it. It works on Mac, it works on PC, it works on your phone. It's all web-based. So it's the lowest sort of barrier to entry to come in and start creating your own.
That was one of the
virtual
things I really love about oncyber. I invested in their seed round, or their pre-seed or seed round, and that for me was really like the number one thing, right? Is like all you need to do is just type in a URL into a web browser, and you get this experience, right? Because like you need
Exactly.
Yeah, because like you need that like at least right
too.
now, right? Like you need to make it as easy as possible for people to come into the space, right? Like because
Yes.
it's just like anything, right? Like
Absolutely.
downloading a MetaMask wallet, connecting it, and like having to sign a transaction. All this stuff is like super intimidating. Like if I can just send you a link and be like, hey, like come into like my home, right? Like come into my space, and let's have this conversation. Then people start getting comfortable with it, and then they start going down the rabbit hole at the pace they feel comfortable with, right?
Yeah. The Web3
we're also
Max
adding another layer that we haven't even split. is we're gonna add, and we're still figuring this out, but live streaming capability. So I want to be able to stream one of my shows
Right.
inside the pods, which I think is
Right.
another way to break that wall again, and so finally we have our own metaverse, a visual layer of what that metaverse looks like is what Matt was talking about, which is a big part of it, because everyone's like, Aokiverse, is that metaverse? Is that like a, Sandbox or something? Like, no, it's a community right now. It's a tokenized social community, but we will eventually evolve into that. And, give or take 6-7 months, and here we are. So we finally get to launch Skypods, which is really exciting for us to be able to launch.
Right. Yeah. No. It seems really cool. As an Aokiverse passport holder, I'm pretty excited to get mine as well and like play around with it, right? Because it should be fun. And like I said, I think the interoperability as well between all, like 6529 has his stuff, CloneX have their stuff, and like the interoperability of everything, and not being like, well, this is like land in Decentraland, so then like you can't use that in Sandbox. Like, to me, that's like the really cool thing with oncyber and the ecosystem that they're building out.
G-Money, you got to level up your passport so you get like that nice, a nice house. You know what I mean? You get a nice pot.
Like, who doesn't want a pool, right?
I should mention, by the way, just before I forget, I think this is airing this week, but August 1st is the snapshot, and August 3rd is the airdrop. So the best part is every passport holder gets one. There's more than 2,500 of them now, and takes no action on there. They just show up in your wallet like magic. We're covering all the costs on the design, on the minting, the delivery, the whole thing.
That's awesome.
It's free to everybody.
The best type of new drops, right? With the airdrops where nothing needs to happen, because a lot of times it's obviously really hard to keep up with everything that's going on in this space, as you guys definitely know. But yeah, I guess a question I have is when you create these new projects, like especially since you have 6 tiers for the passport holders. And I'm asking this for like my own learning, because like when I launched Admit One, right, like there's only 1,000 NFTs. It's all like one tier, because like I just don't want to be in the business of necessarily managing of like what levels of access get you what levels get you what levels of access. Right now, obviously, like your ecosystem is much larger than mine, so I think there's a lot of different touch points of where and what can get you access. How do you determine the kind of value your holders receive in that like different levels, right? For the different levels of passports that they have.
And I can probably take that. So in the beginning, just on gut, like what do you think the person paid to get into that tier, and what's the sort of either tangible or intangible cost? But I will say the community weighed in pretty heavily, because eventually we're sort of just rolling things out and, hey, we'll give this to this many. Like say we had 100 NFTs to give away. And we'd be like, all right, we're going to give 10 to each tier, or whatever it is, or 15, whatever the number was. And then they started, well, can we bell curve it? And like they were running the numbers for us. Like, well, listen, we've looked, and there's 1,500 people here, and there's 800 here. We think if you had 3% here, and they actually really got into the math with us and helped us design sort of a natural bell curve to make sure that at every sort of price point you're getting rewarded, given what you spent and what you invested in the amount of time it took to get to there. But it's really been a collaborative process, and they definitely let you know if you don't get it right. But some of it is just like, this is Steve's reward. This is his system. So at the end of the day, he gets to make the rules. And if he wants to give it to them, he wants to give it to everybody, then everyone's getting it, right? But we, as much as possible, we try to make sure every tier is involved in every reward. And sometimes people have NFTs of different values, so we can do it that way. Sometimes we just buy enough to take care of as many people as humanly possible. Sometimes it's a raffle. We do have times where like everyone's gonna get one no matter what, because you want everyone to feel participating. And then sometimes it's really high value. Like, all right, we're gonna have to like sort of tier this out and make sure that like people who put a lot of time and money into this are getting their return, and people that are sort of dipping their toes in, are getting a chance at that.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think that's something every project has to deal with, right? Is as these different tiers come out, like what is fair, what does the community deem fair, right? It's like a juggling. It's like not a juggling. It's a balancing act, right?
Well, it's like the apes and the mutants and the kennel club, and like they're trying to like meter out, with your level of participation and investment. No one's figured it out. We're all the best part, right? We're all experimenting in real time.
Yeah, we're all learning in real time. Yeah. So how does DominionX fit into your community ecosystem? This is the alpha that Steve you were alluding to, correct?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple different things. So yeah, DominionX, we have the Replicant X drop is going to be launching in August. And to give a backstory on that, there's my first NFT. We talked about that as Character X, and that was March of 2021, and launched my whole, like, devotion and commitment into the whole space. And then later on, I teamed up with Stupid Buddies and Seth Green because we wanted to build it out into a TV show. And they're, like by far one of the next, besides Pixar, they're like the #1 stop motion animation production house in the world. And I know them. They put me in their show, the Robot Chicken, like 4 or 5 years ago. So I became friendly with them. So we pitched them to do a show. Like, we want to make a legitimate TV show with Character X. So we came together and we created this world. The world of Character X and his friends is DominionX. And last August, we launched episode 0, like the trailer of of what's to come with this show. And it sold out in 7 minutes. It was
7 seconds.
Excited about it.
So,
Shit. Okay, 7 seconds. Wow. Okay, I'm glad you're here because that was minutes. So it sold out in 7 seconds, which is way cooler than 7 minutes. That's pretty awesome. Anyways, yeah, it just it's exciting to actually build something this whole idea of bringing Web3 into Web2. Try to do things that we're doing in our space, but whenever you hear Bored Apes becoming a musical outfit that Universal Music Group is signing, or if there's a TV show that's actually going to be on air, like a movie that has NFTs, it's so exciting for all the NFT heads in our community to start seeing it become part of culture, right? So what best way to do it is with the Stupid Buddies Robot Chicken House, who that's what they do. They pump shows out on TV and they're highly regarded and loved. And it's been in development for the past year, and now what we did is with Replicant X, with all these NFTs, we're doing 7,777. 77 is my favorite number. Each holder of a Replicant X gets to have a voice in the storytelling of this legitimate show.
right.
And then we teamed up with Michelle Kuchiara and People Pleaser, where I've worked with both. Me and Emily, we dropped our one of one through Sotheby's, and Michelle did all the art for the Neon Future drop. Really close with them. They have a whole platform that is all about choosing your own adventure. So it's great to work with them to be able to do this kind of model where people that own the NFT can actually be part of what the story will look like. Majority rule votes. I'm not sure of the details there,
Right.
but I think that's a really cool way to have this utility with this Replicant X project.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really cool. I think, and it's funny because I think we've seen a lot of projects start to go down that route, right? Where it's not necessarily every part of the creative process is up for vote, but there will be certain parts almost does the character go left instead of right, and how does that change
Exactly.
The makeup of the story? But,
Yeah.
Ultimately, the story, the creators and the storytellers, right? Everybody involved in the writer's room are kind of still doing their creative process, but just with more community involvement, right? And it's really exciting to watch, right? I think even with last year, right, we still had that lull where I'm sure, everything in Hollywood, it takes time to kind of, one, introduce people to the space, right? As I'm sure you had to do with the team, help them get comfortable with it, and then kind of work out, how does this look like in a kind of blended format, because it's maybe not there has to be elements of Web 2 to make them comfortable with it, but then also make it Web 3 native. And a lot of it is just waiting, making sure that these negotiations take place and that they work and that they're good, and now it's about putting the product out there, right? So that's really exciting. That's cool stuff. And that's going to be in mid-August, you said?
Yeah, I don't have the exact date, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I give you a little detail. So we haven't announced the mint date yet, but yeah, we're looking at a mid-August date. We're just a couple weeks away. The art is completely done. And as Steve said, when we launched Aokiverse, our whole goal was to hit the ground running, to not like spend 6 months building. ReplicaNX, DominionX, the same thing. As Steve said, we spent a year in development. By the way, they were also doing season 11 of Robot Chicken at the same time. So we have the first few episodes written, and we're actually going into physical production just as the mint is happening. So the whole experience of gamified storytelling will, be within, weeks or months. So you can actually see your participation. But the fun part is because it's physical production. This is stop motion where they're making characters. We'll be able to give literal behind the scenes. Here are photos of, the characters being built. Here's photos of that scene being done. Like, we'll be able to actually show everybody what's happening as it's happening.
Right. That's cool. I think we've seen that, right? Like I think it's really cool and innovative, like the behind the scenes look of, really just bringing that interactivity to the fandom, which I think as much as we've been talking about it in the space for a while now, it's fun to finally start seeing it happen in action. And honestly, like I'm excited because I know you guys execute really well, and execute quickly. So, it's exciting from like a community member perspective from me to see it happen and hopefully kind of create templates for like how this looks like going forward.
Yeah, it's exciting. We many years of pumping out Steve Aoki content is finally paid off.
That's awesome. And so I guess are there any other things you want to be talking about with regards to I guess DominionX, Replicant, the Skypods, or I guess you also have the Sandbox, right? The Sandbox collab.
So I mean,
Yeah, so yeah.
You want to talk about Sandbox? It'll be minted out by the time this airs.
Okay. All right. So I mean, yeah. So basically, so it's minting right now. So I guess by the time that this airs, the mint will be over. But can you just, for those who might be interested in buying it on the secondary, can you elaborate a little bit on what you're doing with Sandbox?
Sure. So we partnered with Sandbox last year. Everyone sees the stuff and thinks it happens so fast. This stuff takes 6, 8, 12 months. So this is last year we decided to partner with them on this new season. The first thing we did was a land sale. So Steve got a piece of land and they sold all the surrounding land to him, which is more of like a teaser of what's to come. And the first thing we're doing sort of in real time is the Aoki avatars. So there are 3,333 voxel Steve Aokis with all these different attributes, different rarities, different skins, different clothing. And I hope I'm not giving something away, but there will be, I won't say too much, but there will be a Steve Aoki experience in the Sandbox that those Aoki avatars are going to be specifically built for. That will have like a play to earn sort of mentality. But I like to say it's play and earn because it's actually a fun experience, which Steve knows, and probably give you a little bit of detail about. He's been working on the Playhouse experience with Sandbox for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, can we talk about the Playhouse?
Yeah, let's do it.
People have seen photos of it. Yeah, I mean, a little bit, not too much, but you can
so like one of the main things that it took us a year of constant revisioning and building out and doing like so many zooms back and forth is Sandbox turned, my house, Aoki's Playhouse, which exists in Las Vegas, but they it's like acid and crack and LSD and that's acid and like steroid. It's just like it's like a trip to go on into this Aoki's Playhouse. Obviously, because it's in the metaverse, we could do whatever we want. Like you could literally jump through my foam pit and you go into my brain. Mm-hmm. And you could do quests, and you have to finish all these quests to get like certain items, and it's a fun game, and it's like I wish my house was basically the Sandbox Aoki's Playhouse, because it's insane. So we spent months and months and months building that out, and to top it off, we developed the avatars so that it all aligns with this new season 3 or this alpha 3 that they're launching. So yeah, I just can't wait for people to see it because they're really going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be one of the better experiences that are out there, period, in Web3.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's exciting for me because I was like hand in hand building it out with the dev
Right.
team.
No, I mean that's awesome. And I guess in true Aoki fashion, right? Like you guys are just working nonstop as if you don't sleep, right? Like, and I really appreciate that. And like it's funny because it's very Web3, right? Like nobody ever sleeps. Like I never sleep, right? Like I know he's always online, right?
Well, we were talking to Steve about like the schedule of things, and Jose, like 2 weeks ago, last week we had the MetaZoo drop, and then this week we have the Sandbox drop.
Which
next
I mean,
week
the
we have
MetaZoo drop was like just to talk about that here, like especially for all the NFT community and all the Web3 heads out there that don't know what MetaZoo is or are not familiar with it, because it's a Web2 game. It's a real TCG game that with a healthy, insane community,
a physical trading card,
rabid fans,
Right.
a physical trading card game. But the secondary stuff that we're doing, we just did MetaZoo did skateboard decks. They sold $2 million in skateboard decks in 14 minutes.
Right.
Like they made Christmas paper for Christmas like 4 weeks before Christmas and sold 1 million in 6 hours or 4 hours or something. They have like the most insane collectible community that like is so devoted to MetaZoo. So MetaZoo is basically it's a world of cryptids. So anything that existed in folklore and the history of human civilization, like Bigfoot,
Right.
or Chupacabra, and all these cryptids, they're a public domain, but they all live, like they all have a massive following. Like there's probably 20 million devoted Bigfoot followers that love and have a Bigfoot community, but they're in silos of each other. Like, the Bigfoot community doesn't like, they're not Chupacabra fans, but MetaZoo encapsulates the whole world of all of them. And now people are like, oh, now I can like be interested in the MetaZoo Bigfoot and the MetaZoo Mothman and trade cards and be part of this culture. So clearly, being part of MetaZoo and me being part of Web3, I was like, we're definitely going to introduce the MetaZoo community to Web3 and the Web3 community to MetaZoo by introducing these tokens to get early access MetaZoo products. Because I mean, like for example, we did these for Nightfall. We did MetaZoo. Nightfall's a set. We did boxes, and we sold 50,000 boxes, which holds like 20 packs in 30 seconds.
Right. That's awesome.
Like it broke the server. Like it's just like that's physical product. So we're trying to like bridge. The idea is to bridge all those fans and onboard them into Web3, and introduce this wonderful world of MetaZoo to the Web3 community that love to like be in that space. And for me, of course, I want to bring in my music. I'm trying to figure that out. So the past year as well, for the last 2 years, I've been working on my new album, Hero Quest. And I didn't have an album name. And I was like, okay, now I want to create a world, because now I'm part of MetaZoo. So for the past year, I was like, okay, with MetaZoo, I want Hero Quest, this album, to live in MetaZoo. So we created the future cryptids that live in Hero Quest. We created 70 new characters, 22 new characters, and 50 of them that were MetaZoo characters that existed inside the future cryptid world. And we dropped a single card in my HeroQuest CD in June to introduce the first set. The only way you can get these cards, the 70 cards, is if you get a CD. We dropped that in June, the first week of June. The album comes out September, and in 4 hours we sold 30,000 CDs. So it's like now I'm gonna eventually bring HeroQuest into Web3 through MetaZoo. So there's a lot going on with MetaZoo and my music and NFTs and all that fun stuff
Right.
too.
I mean,
And I would just add that sort of speaks to, just quickly, that speaks to like why Aokiverse exists.
right.
You know, like he has a trading card game with MetaZoo that had an NFT drop. We had a deal with oncyber. We have a project with Sandbox. We didn't even get into it, but we can do some other time. He's got an NFT marketplace on Solana with the comic book artist Todd McFarlane. And in a normal world, these things just all exist in their own silo. And maybe we kind of push it all through the social media. But with Aokiverse, every Aokiverse member got exclusive access to all this stuff, got free NFTs, got free drops, got free physical cards, got hoodies. You know, it really, Web3 allowed us to tie in all these different interests of Steve's into one tokenized community where everyone's rewarded for being a part of it. And if you're not into it, you can always sell your way out, right? Which doesn't exist if you have a fan club, right? You just turn off your subscription. You can't monetize.
That's the main difference. Like some people like, okay, I had like great time with the Aokiverse and I'm level 4 passport. I could sell it.
Yeah.
You know, well, you know, like it's just really.
There's a,
you know, I don't want them.
There's a funny story, which maybe you edit out later, but there's a kid, he's 20 years old. We did a CloneX giveaway at the very beginning of Aokiverse. He won a super rare CloneX. We gave him a vial. Steve minted the vial for him. He got super rare one worth about 40 ETH at the time. He sold it, and then he immediately sold his UV passport. And then today he was asking about like some allowed list. I was like, you sold your passport? He's like, oh, he sold for like maybe 3-4 ETH. I was like, you can buy back in. They're only 16 ETH now. You know, it's like, but listen, I think that's the optionality, right? He was able to sell, and maybe he would buy back in cheaper, but no, it turned out it was 4x to buy back in later. But that's the beauty of Web3 and a tokenized community is you have the optionality, right? It's your choice to do it, and you either reap the rewards or you don't.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I get it. And that's, I think, to me, the most exciting thing, even as I'm building my personal brand, just to watch how you've done it, obviously through Web 2, Steve, and then transition to being able to successfully do it in Web 3. I think it serves as like a good prototype for, you know, people like myself as well. As like, it's the thing I really appreciate about everything you're doing. It's like, it's very particular to you, right? It's like you're doing things that you like, that you're excited about. Even like the way you were describing everything that you just described, like you can tell that you care, right? It's not just something that's like, oh yeah, like this is like a licensing deal and I'm just slapping my name on it or whatever. And so like that passion obviously like flows over into the community and they get passionate about it. So, you know, I really appreciate it. So I'm super excited. I know I think we might be over an hour at this point, so I want to be cognizant of your guys' time. But before we go, I want to ask you guys 2 questions. One, what is your favorite NFT that you own in your collection? And then 2, and this question is more for Matt because I don't know if we want to know what collection Steve likes just yet. But Matt, what do you like? You know, because Steve is known for buying the top. So what do you have to say to all those haters too, Steve?
Well, before we get into that, I do want to shout out Todd McFarlane and what we built with Aoki and our Solana marketplace, and it's still like, you know, it's still very early, but what Todd is the GOAT. Todd McFarlane is a GOAT, and he never in the past 30 years sold any Spawn art. People are dying to get any art from Todd McFarlane, but he's like, just keeps it like, you know, other you know, like other people in comic culture have sold their art. Todd never sold a single thing. And now through Aoki, he's giving access and selling. He actually did already sold to 2 different projects of Spawn, like autographed pieces. And I'm not sure the exact details of what it is, but now the fans are going buck wild over it. So want to shout out Todd, want to shout out Aoki, and we are dropping a Neon Future animated cover that is actually done by a legend artist that he made like the iconic 1977 Star Wars cover. And when we talked to him, we're like, can you do something just like that for Neon Future? And what he made for Neon Future looks like it's from 1977. It looks like it's like part of Star Wars. It's pretty epic. So we're dropping that through Oddkey, and that's happening in August as well. So want to give a lot of love and to the GOAT, Todd McFarlane. And I'm very excited to be working with him on Oddkey and building that.
Amazing. Yeah, I grew up. I think Spawn was. I think I was just a little too young for Spawn when it came out, but I remember like everybody that was like slightly older than me loved it, and the artwork was really cool too. But looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess what's.
Yeah. Okay, let's like you. Matt, you want to go first?
So what's the question? What's the first question?
What's your favorite NFT in your collection?
My favorite NFT is the one I'm the most like resentful of. So I was lucky enough to buy Bored Ape early, and then one became my PFP, and I held it all the way up to like 100 ETH, and I sold it. I bought it for like 2 or 3, and I intentionally wanted to buy an NFT that I wouldn't be emotionally attached to. So I went and bought a Clone X, and I bought literally the one at the bottom of the floor, and I also bought it because it looked just like me. And now I'm stuck with the thing. I can never sell it. It's the only NFT out there that looks exactly like me. I have to go buy more of these NFTs, and it's because it weirdly it's wearing the same clothing I wear. So for me, I was a little bit like skeptical of the whole Clone X artifact. Yeah, everyone loves it, but then I'm just gonna buy it because I have no emotional attachment.
Right.
I'll flip it tomorrow, and now I'm stuck with the thing. I'll never sell it.
No, so you won't sell it?
I bought a couple other ones just so I could sell them because I can't. When am I ever going to find a PFP NFT that looks just like I do? Wearing a varsity jacket with a bald head and my skin and everything. But I bought it with the stated intention. Like I specifically said, I'm buying this one so I can flip it tomorrow. I just watch it go up as soon as it hits 2 ETH. I'm never making the mistake of the Bored Ape again. That wasn't a mistake. I mean, I did really well on it, but like I could never sell it things else. So
There's definitely NFTs I've bought that are like, oh, it looks like me, and it's not meant to be me, because it's not, because there's obviously like the honorary ones that people make of me, but like, I think one of the first ones I bought that looked like me was a Meebit.
Oh wow!
I bought a Meebit that had like long hair. I literally only own like I think 2 Meebits or 4 Meebits or something, because my strategy is I always buy like. If I buy something, I want to buy at least 3. That's like if I can. If I have my enough ETH, I always want to get at least 3 because I still remember this. Just like every you go to the casino and you win big, you always remember that one time you win big. So when I put my I bought a CryptoPunk, which is so cool. I have like the 3D glasses and everything. Everyone was talking about it. And bought it for 50 ETH and I sold it I put it up for 300 ETH just because it's like no one's going to buy for 300 ETH. This one ETH was like $3,000, so or $3,500. So it was like $1 million sale in 21 days after I put it up there. And I'm like, wait, hold on a second, that's not supposed to sell. Like I didn't want to sell it. I should have put it higher. I thought 300 was high enough. And then I was like, after that moment, I'm like, fuck, I'm out of CryptoPunks. I need to buy 3 of each from now on. So I got recently I got another CryptoPunk that was a female CryptoPunk, but it looks like me. And the floor was low, and I actually put it up. It's got a cigarette in its mouth. I don't smoke cigarettes, but I'm like, it looks like me. I think it was like
that was like a week ago, right? A week or 2 ago.
When ETH was like
that was like a week or 2 ago, right?
What's that?
Yeah, because I know because people started fighting like, oh no, Steve's buying punks like short-term top, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like, you guys are taking this.
I love seeing shit like that. It makes me laugh. But I think my favorite has to be the Alien Doodle.
That's a pretty epic one.
You know, and then it would turn into a meme when I showed it at a show. People were like, "Oh shit, look at Aoki fucking showing the shit."
I love it.
I mean,
I love it. But yeah, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. You know, I know you guys are going to crush everything you're working on because you've been crushing it for so long. You guys have been executing for so long already that I don't doubt your success and everything that you're working on. And, you know, I enjoy the rest of your European tour. Hopefully we can meet up at some point. I'll coordinate with Matt, see if I can show up in the city somewhere where you guys are at in the next month or so. And chill and party, because you throw, I mean, I'm sure everybody on this podcast, I hopefully knows that you throw one of probably the most epic and fun shows out there. And dude, honestly, like I remember that night at VCon, I mean, you make it look easy to throw those cakes. Like there were like guys, like there were guys that were like really fit that I was like, wow, like you need to learn how to throw a cake, man. Like, you know, Steve.
That's the workout.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I've kicked like over 20,000 people at this point. Like, if I'm not good at caking someone or targeting someone and caking them, it's like I don't know. Like, I have to be at least semi decent at this, you know?
yeah, no, I hear you. But all right, thanks guys. I appreciate it. And for everybody that wants to check out for more info, what's the best place for them to go?
Website, aokiverse.com or aokiverse.xyz.
But it's A0K1.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll give you all the information.
A0K1.
It works both. We have all of them.
Okay, good.
Everything points to the same
We
place.
got enough weird hacker scammers got Aokiverse with the
Yeah.
A. Okay, fine. Aokiverse, however way you want to spell it. We should do
Amazing.
too.
Yeah,
People always-
XYZ. You got it.
Boy.
All right, awesome guys. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And have a good. All right, talk to you later.
Later.